My wife gave birth to a biracial baby that clearly isn't mine, and I'm divorcing her. But I'm worried about the relationship between my two kids and their new half-sister. A month ago, my wife gave birth to a black baby girl. We are both white, so she was forced to admit that the child was a result of a one-night stand last year. I've started divorce proceedings, although we are still living together for now. Between our two boys, aged 2 and 4, I've had paternity tests for them, and they came back positive. Her infant daughter and her having lost her job due to COVID, living together as amicably as possible until the divorce is settled, is an unfortunate necessity. Naturally, I have no ill will towards the baby, and I've been disgusted by some of the comments I've heard from family members, friends, co-workers, and others, all who seem to be fixated on the racial angle of this. As if the most salient part of this isn't that my wife cheated, but that she cheated with a black man, and that the baby is black. What worries me is that my two sons might pick up on these narratives. They are too young to understand what's happening now, but I'm worried that as they grow to understand the situation, that they might grow to resent their half-sister for breaking up their parents' marriage. And worse than their resentment might express itself in a racist fashion, under the influence of the aforementioned racist narratives. Any thoughts on how I should try to influence my sons away from that perspective? It probably doesn't help that we live in a suburb with very few black people and their half-sister is the only black person my children know. Update: my wife gave birth to a biracial baby that clearly isn't mine, and I'm divorcing her. But I'm worried about the relationship between my two kids and their new half-sister. The big takeaway for me was that if I'd need to lead by example here, not excluding her in any way because of her paternity, so that she and my sons would see her as a full member of the family. Also that I need to be more active in confronting the bigoted and ignorant nonsense I've been hearing, and teach my sons to do the same to protect their sister. I've spoken to some of those responsible since, and made clear my feelings on this, and that she is to be treated as a member family, and that if I ever find out that they've said things like that to my sons or their sister, that they won't be allowed around us anymore. I've spoken to my wife about this, and we are more or less on the same page. She's been begging me to forgive her, and not go through the divorce, but that's not going to happen. Even if I didn't consider the cheating unforgivable, I just don't feel any love for her anymore, other than a platonic affection for her as the mother of my children. My sons are handling this as well as can be expected. The 4-year-old doesn't fully understand, but is upset by the change in the household. Thankfully he's easily distracted. The 2-year-old is thankfully too young to comprehend what's going on, but has picked up on how withdrawn his mother has become. They are both fascinated with their new little sister, so there's that silver lining. My wife on the other hand isn't in good shape at all. She was depressed even before the birth, and now with everything, our divorce, her infidelity being revealed, and the backlash from family and friends, postpartum depression, and the exhaustion from raising an infant, she's barely functional. She's seeing a therapist, and I've been pressuring some of our family and friends to be supportive of her, because even if they think she deserves it, her current state is making it harder for me and our children. It's become very obvious to me that even after the divorce is finalized, we are going to have to live together for a while longer. She's in no shape to be taking care of 3 kids without someone else around to support her, and I'm not willing to deprive her of her sons by seeking sole custody. It's also too difficult financially, since she's lost her job because of COVID. As for the baby girl, she's healthy and fairly easy by baby standards. Since I've been helping care for her, I've bonded with her, and I've discussed the possibility of adopting her with my wife. She can't contact the father, as the only thing she knows about him is his first name, and given our co-parenting situation, it feels like adopting her as my daughter would be the best outcome for all involved. However, there's been a wrench thrown in that plan. It was brought to my attention that there may be a way of finding the baby's father, namely by having her DNA tested by Ancestry DNA. If the father or one of his relatives has also taken the test, we may be able to find him through their DNA match database. If I'm being completely honest, I'm not happy about this. I've already started to think of the baby girl as my daughter, and having him in our lives would massively complicate the family dynamic. Plus we live in Seattle, and she met him in Philadelphia, so God knows how they'd even make it work if he wanted to be the kid's father. However, I recognize that this is a selfish reaction. If we have a chance of finding her biological father, we owe it to her to do so, if only so that she has access to her paternal medical history, and so that she can have a relationship with him, if and when she chooses to do so. I've read a few accounts by children raised by non-biological parents, and a common thread is their desire to meet their lost biological parent. So that's that. We've ordered an ancestry DNA kit for her, and I guess we'll decide our next steps once we get the results back in a couple of months. My 40 male ex-wife, 40 female, wants me to be with her in her last days. Backstory: I met my ex when we were both 10. She is my twin sister's best friend, so we've always been kind of a trio growing up. We started dating at 14 and got married at 23. The thing got ugly though, cause 5 years after getting married, she told me she had a month-long affair with her co-worker. Apparently, the guilt was too much for her, so she confessed. We tried to work through it, but after a few months of trying, I knew that despite the fact that I loved her, I couldn't trust her anymore. She told me she still loved me, and that she'd wait for me and prove that I was the only one. I wanted to believe her, but some things just can't be fixed. We never had kids. 3 years after the divorce, I met my now wife, 38F, and we got married 2 years after dating. She's everything I could ever dream of in a wife and more. My ex, as my sister told me, they're still besties, never really recovered. She quit her job and is now working in a church. Throughout my relationship with my wife, she kept trying to get back together, and on the day of my wedding, she told me she still loved me and would love no one else. She said this was the last time she would bother me, but that she'll wait for however long it took. Apparently, she's honest in that regard, at least cause my sister says she's never been with anyone since. So here's what happened recently. My wife and I, married for 7 years now, have 2 kids, 7 female and 3 male. My sister came over with her own kids, so the cousins could play. While my wife was out to pick up lunch, my sister sat me down and told me the situation about my ex. Apparently, she only has less than 6 months to live. She refused treatment and wants to live the last few months to the fullest. I guess that's why she and my sister went out of their way to travel despite the pandemic. One thing on her bucket list though was that she wanted to feel like my wife again. No lovemaking, no kissing. She just wanted me to be around the house. She still lives in the house we lived in, again, and maybe hold her from time to time. I told her I wouldn't do that, cause that was pretty much emotionally cheating. My sister kept arguing and begging me to at least see her and hear her out. We kept arguing, no screaming. The kids were in the next room with her older daughter until my wife came back. My sister told her the whole story, and while she looked upset, she said she understood where my ex was coming from. When my sister left, my wife and I talked about it. My wife knows everything that happened in the past with my ex. She says while she isn't thrilled about the idea, she won't get upset if I decided to see her on a regular basis. My wife is the best thing that ever happened to me, and I love her more than anyone. She makes me happier than I've ever been in my life, even in the good times with my ex. She knows I won't cheat. I also have zero romantic feelings for my ex, so there's nothing lingering there. I don't hate her or anything, it's just that the love I had for her has long since died. After thinking about it for a while, I'm honestly 50/50 about it. I know I don't owe her anything, but I feel like I might regret not seeing her at least one more time. Since the last time I saw her was on my wedding day, and that wasn't a good encounter for either of us. I honestly feel like, despite what she did, she still deserves to go with some peace. On the other hand, I'm not entirely sure if this might potentially affect our marriage. My wife says she's okay with it, and I believe her, but I just can't be sure that she'll feel the same way after it happens. I don't want anything to jeopardize what I have right now, no matter what. I'm not too thrilled about going myself, to be honest. Any advice? What should I do? Edit. Just wanna add that, if ever I do this, I won't be acting like a husband or anything inappropriate like that. Just gonna see her and talk for a bit. My sister says that me just being there and sharing a meal with her would be more than enough for her to feel like we were married again. Update: my 40 male ex-wife, 40 female, wants me to be with her in her last days. It's been almost 3 weeks since I've posted, and a lot has happened since. I got some solid advice from a lot of you guys, especially some who messaged me with their personal experiences. I'd like to thank you guys from the bottom of my heart. So here's what happened. As many of you guys suggested, I talked to my wife. We had a long discussion about the whole situation and I assured her that no matter what, she is and always will be my first priority. I also assured her that while I wanted to say my goodbye, I would never act like her husband. It would be more like me seeing a childhood friend or something like that. I also told her I would never spend the night, nor would I be alone with her. She was more comfortable after our talk, and was pretty okay with the idea of me seeing my ex again. As you guys guessed, she felt like she was forced into being okay with it when my sister asked, but this time, she really was okay. So I talked to my sister, and after a long heated discussion about what my role would be in the visit, she agreed to the bounder as my wife and I set. A week later my sister and I came over to our old marital home. It was a surreal cause. While the emotions from years before came back to me, I didn't feel any sadness nor hatred or anything negative. I saw my ex, who was waiting for us in the living room, and she cried when I walked in. Most of you suggested she was faking it, but while she was still strong, you could tell almost immediately something was wrong with her. I indulged her with a hug and we talked for a few hours while my sister made lunch. I showed her pictures of my kids and told her stories about what they're like. Honestly, I didn't know how I would react after I saw her again, but it just feels like seeing an old friend you haven't seen in a long time. There was no hate or anything like that. I walked around the house, and it was pretty much the way it was when I left over a decade ago. I'm not really sure how I feel about our wedding photos still framed, and pictures of us still all over the house, but it wasn't really my place to say anything. The three of us had lunch, and played board games all afternoon. It honestly felt like we were back to when we were kids, and the three of us would hang out together. It was nice. I left at around 6. She was sad but she understood. When I hugged her goodbye, she whispered I love you to me, but then said how she's happy I was able to find the happiness she couldn't give me. That part got to me, to be honest, and I was fighting back tears. I told her I'd see her again soon, and she asked if I could bring my kids next time. I told her I would, and left to pick up dinner for my family. I told my wife everything that happened, and she was quite happy about the outcome. I guess it helped that I brought home her favorite food, but she also agreed to let me bring the kids next time. Overall, it was a great experience seeing her again. I feel like I needed that and would regretted not doing so. Again, I'd like to thank everyone who gave me advice. Also, please don't roast my ex too much. She made a mistake and paid the price, but it doesn't mean she's an evil person. My fiance's ex sent me their lovemaking tapes, and I made the terrible mistake of watching it. My fiance, 27 male, and I, 29 female, just got engaged a week ago. I proposed to him when I heard from our friends that he was sad that his proposal plans were ruined by COVID. We have been very happy this past week. I guess this caught the attention of his bitter ex, 28 female. She contacted me on social media and sent me a few videos and said that, even though I may be marrying him, I would never be able to satisfy him sexually the way she did. For some background, early on in our relationship, I was a bit insecure about this ex, especially how attractive she was, but my fiance assured me that he would never ever consider being with her again because she was abusive and used to force him into things he did not like. I soon grew out of these insecurities because my fiance was an amazing boyfriend and always made me feel loved and very secure. But the ex's message brought back all these insecurities and I decided to watch the videos she sent. It was a huge mistake. I have never seen my fiance so passionate/vocal during making love with me. She even had a video of her giving him a BJ in a public place. I never knew he was into all that stuff. I got really upset and decided to check if he had kept any of these videos on his phone. Turns out he hadn't kept any of them, but I found out messages discussing them with his best friend Sarah. Apparently, his ex had sent these tapes to him as well, to remind him how good it was between them. He had deleted them right away and blocked her, but was debating whether or not to tell me about this, and thus asked Sarah's advice. The conversation somehow turned into Sarah asking who was better sexually. My fiance tried to evade the question, but she pressed the issue for some reason. It looked like she was teasing him and was being playful, but after a while, he got mad and sent her a mini rant. The important gist of it was basically this. If you look at it from a purely physical perspective, then yeah, X was better. She was more my type physically and sexually. She was very aggressive and passionate and always took the initiative, which I liked, and she gave one hell of a BJ. But she was also abusive, and towards the end, she started using lovemaking as a tool, and instead of feeling loved it became a desperate attempt for me to connect with her. Lovemaking with OP made me realize that lovemaking was not just about the physical aspect. I feel loved and secure and happy when I'm with her. Even if she is less my type compared to X, the emotional connection means that the lovemaking is automatically great. Although the second half of his rant somehow saves it, I still feel hurt by his admission that making love was better with her. He did tell me that he liked me being aggressive and taking initiative, and I do try to be more like that, but once things start happening I end up becoming more passive and let him take the lead. I know I can try being more aggressive, but I'm afraid I can never be as good as she, and I can never be the kind of girl that can give public BJs. Now I wonder if he settled for me despite not enjoying lovemaking as much with me. Logically, I know I don't have to be the best at everything for my fiance, but it hurts because he is the best boyfriend I have ever had in all aspects that I can think of, and I always thought our love life was amazing. Now I feel like I just got lucky because I was the first person he dated after that abusive piece of garbage in the bar was set so low that he decided that our relationship was amazing enough to make up for that I was not as good at lovemaking as she was. I feel sad and hurt and I don't know what to do. The ex managed to ruin what was supposed to be one of the happiest period of my life. I don't know how to bring this up to my fiance without sounding like a nut with no self-control, who thought it was a good idea to watch the videos and snoop on his phone. Update: my fiance's ex sent me their lovemaking tapes, and I made the terrible mistake of watching it. As for the update, after posting here and reflecting on my actions, I realized what I did was wrong and a violation of my fiance's privacy. I allowed my insecurities to dictate my actions. Even though my fiance is okay with me using his phone, my intent to snoop made what I did wrong. So I decided to just come clean. I sat him down the next day and told him that the ex sent me the videos as well, and also came clean about the snooping. He was pretty upset, but surprisingly he wasn't that upset with the snooping. He seemed more upset that his ex had somehow managed to cause drama once again in his life. He told me that he hadn't watched any of the videos because in a majority of them, he was uncomfortable with recording them and only did it for her and was afraid of watching it made me look at him in a bad way. This made me feel even crappier for what I did, and I apologized again and reassured him that they did not in any way lessen my feelings or respect for him. I wanted him to have some time to process things and decide what to do about the ex and what I did, so I gave him some space. That night, I decided to cook his favorite meal as a sort of apology dinner and discuss things. He seemed in a much better mood. He apologized to me for not telling me about the tapes right away and for being an idiot and not realizing that she would come after me when he had blocked her. He told me he appreciated me coming clean about the snooping and understood how I got carried away and that I could have just talked to him and he would have given me his phone, and reassured me that he hadn't kept any of the videos. I asked if he was going to press charges regarding revenge porn, and he told me that he wanted nothing to do with her and that we should just move on and enjoy our engagement and forget the whole thing. I told him it was completely his choice and I support him and would delete the videos and block her right away. Finally, I brought up the texts and he apologized to me for the rant. He told me that was the first time in a long time that he had actually thought about who was better and that he had never actively compared me with any of his exes before. He told me he should have just answered it with a simple "my fiance is better" and tried to apologize again. I told him that he didn't have to sugarcoat anything and that it was his private conversation with a friend and I have no right to be mad when he wasn't really disrespectful about me or our love life. I also told him that it was okay if she was better and I didn't have to be the best at everything. He explained to me that after talking to Sarah he thought more about it and that he hadn't really expressed his thoughts well in the text, but he would like to explain it better. You are the best I have had. I'm not lying or sugarcoating anything. If someone asked me who is the most skilled or the most adventurous sexual partner that I have had, then yeah, it would probably be her. But that doesn't really matter, because if someone asked me what was the best lovemaking I have ever had, my first thought would be the time when we made love, right after you asked me to marry you, and then it would be the night when you first told me you loved me, and third would be the time when we made love in the kitchen the day I moved in. For all her skill and experience, she couldn't even make the top 3, and we have the rest of our lives to make sure that she doesn't even come near the top 100. So no, I'm not lying. When I say you are the best I have had, I'm not going to lie, despite what I said about not needing to be the best. Just hearing what he said, maybe I butchered the quote. He was so much more charming and eloquent, made me really happy, so I kissed him and asked him if he wanted to try and break into the top 3 again. Then, we made love. I didn't specifically try to be more aggressive, but I tried to focus more on what he was feeling to reassure myself that he was enjoying it as much as I did. That naturally allowed me to be the one in the lead, and it was great. I could tell that he really enjoyed it as well. I know I have to work on my insecurities and potentially see a therapist, but for now, I will try my best to just forget what I saw on those videos and enjoy being engaged to the most amazing man I know.